Welcome to Japan. There is a country where a woman in silk kneels before a 300-year-old tea bowl in a room built without a single nail, and 3 streets away, a train slides into a station without a second of delay, without a sound, without apology. That country is Japan. It is a nation built twice, once by monks, poets, and swordsmiths. And once again by engineers, architects, and dreamers, and somehow, improbably, both versions still live in the same house. Japan is an archipelago of nearly 7,000 islands, strung down the edge of the Pacific like a sentence written in stone. It sits atop the Ring of Fire, a place where the earth itself refuses to stay still, where volcanoes sculpt mountains and tremors shape the architecture of daily life. Out of that instability came something unexpected. A culture obsessed with permanence. Shrines are rebuilt every 20 years, so they never age. Rituals are repeated so precisely that a tea ceremony performed today mirrors one performed 5 centuries ago. Gesture for gesture. This is a land shaped by isolation, and by opening for over 200 years, Japan closed its doors to the outside world, refining its own traditions in near-total solitude. Then, within a single lifetime, it opened those doors and modernized faster than almost any nation in history. That collision of the shut door and the open one is still visible everywhere you look. It is in the temple beside the skyscraper. It is in the elder farmer bowing to a robot that harvests his rice. It is in a people who can build the fastest trains on Earth and still stop, without irony, to watch a single cherry blossom fall. To understand Japan is to understand a country that treats contradiction not as a flaw, but as a discipline. The sword and the chrysanthemum, the mountain and the machine, held together by something the Japanese call wa, harmony. We begin at the foot of a mountain that has watched over this nation since before its name existed. There is one shape that every child in Japan draws before they can write their own name. And it rises 3,776 meters above the plains of Honshu alone. Symmetrical and impossibly calm for something built entirely out of fire. Fuji is a stratovolcano, and geologists count it among the youngest of Japan's great peaks. Formed by eruptions layered one atop another over hundreds of thousands of years, the last of them in the winter of 1707. when ash from its slopes fell as far as the streets of Edo, nearly 100 kilometers away. It has been quiet ever since, but never forgotten, never fully trusted, and never, for a single generation, unloved. Approach it at dawn, and the mountain seems to invent its own weather. A collar of cloud at the shoulders, a cap of snow that lingers into early summer, a silhouette that changes color with the hour indigo before sunrise, rose gold at first light, and finally a white so pure it looks unfinished, as if the sky had not yet decided what color the mountain should be. Below it, Lake Kawaguchi holds a second Fuji upside down in still water, doubling the mountain for anyone patient enough to wait for windless morning. Pilgrims climb through volcanic gravel in switchback lines, their headlamps forming a faint constellation on the dark slope through the night. No other mountain in the world has been painted, printed, and photographed with such devotion. Hokusai's 36 views made it a character before photography even existed, and it remains one of the most reproduced images on Earth. To stand before Fuji is to feel, for a moment, exactly the right size, small enough to understand your place, and lucky enough not to mind it. Some cities have a heartbeat. Tokyo has a pulse you can watch with your own eyes, and it beats hardest at a single intersection where, some say, more than 3,000 people cross at once in every direction, and somehow no one collides. Shibuya Crossing sits at the center of a city of nearly 14 million people, a metropolis so dense that its train network moves more passengers in a single day than some countries move in a year. Shinjuku Station alone handles millions of travelers daily, a hub so vast that first-time visitors have been known to lose an hour simply finding the correct exit. At night, the crossing becomes a screen unto itself, towering advertisements washing the crowd in blue and red and gold, umbrellas blooming like dark flowers when rain arrives without warning. The underground rumble of trains felt through the soles of your shoes before you ever see one. Above it all, Shinjuku's skyline glows in 1,000 small windows, each one a story no one outside will ever hear. Walk one block off the main avenue, and the noise falls away entirely. A shrine gate stands quiet between two office towers, untouched by the current moving around it. Nowhere else on Earth does a single subway station serve so many people in a day, and nowhere else does that scale of movement feel somehow orderly rather than chaotic. Here, Japan does not choose between the ancient and the electric. It simply lets them share the same sidewalk. There is a path in Kyoto made entirely of doorways, thousands of them, painted the deep red of the setting sun. Each one donated by a person who wanted to say thank you. Fushimi Inari Taisha was founded in the year 711, making it older than most nations currently on a map, and it remains the head shrine for Inari, the god of rice, prosperity, and business success. Which is why, over 13 centuries, companies and individuals have kept donating torii gates in gratitude until the paths behind the main shrine became a tunnel of them, stretching for kilometers up the sacred slope of Mount Inari. Walk into that tunnel and the world narrows to a single color and a single rhythm. Vermilion beams overhead, the black ink of donor names running down each pillar, sunlight breaking through in thin blades wherever two gates meet at a slight angle. The forest presses close on either side, cicadas rising and falling like a tide of sound, moss climbing the stone foxes that guard every turn. Climb long enough and Kyoto disappears entirely below the trees, replaced by nothing but red, green, and breath. Those stone foxes are Inari's messengers, and tradition holds that a key is often carved into their mouths, the key to the rice granary, and by extension, to fortune itself. By the time the gates thin out near the summit, something in you has slowed down to match them. Sound behaves differently here. The wind does not rustle through this forest so much as it speaks a dry, hollow clatter. The Japanese government once named one of the 100 soundscapes worth preserving in the entire country. Arashiyama's grove is part of the larger Sagano forest on Kyoto's western edge, a district that has drawn poets and nobility since the Heian period, more than 1,000 years ago, when aristocrats built villas here, specifically to hear this same wind move through this same bamboo. The path runs narrow and green, stalks rising 20 meters or more on either side, so densely packed that midday sun arrives only in scattered coins of light on the gravel below. The green here is not one color, but dozens pale near the new growth, near black in the deepest shade, and the stalks themselves creak and knock against each other with the smallest breeze, a sound both wooden and alive. Cyclists pass in soft rubber hush. A rickshaw runner's sandals tap a rhythm against the packed earth. Somewhere beyond the grove, the Hosogawa River keeps its own quieter conversation with the rocks. Few forests on Earth have been given a name for their sound rather than their sight. This one earned that distinction and keeps it still. Stand still here for 1 full minute, and you will understand why an empire's poets once needed nothing more than this. Long before Kyoto was Japan's capital, Nara held that title, and it still holds something rarer, a park where wild animals and pilgrims have shared the same ground, peacefully, for over 1,000 years. At the heart of Nara stands Todai-ji, completed in the year 752 and long recognized as the largest wooden building on Earth, though the structure standing today is itself a reconstruction, rebuilt smaller than the original after fire twice took the temple down. Inside sits the great Buddha, a bronze figure so large that a single finger stretches wider than an adult's outstretched hand. Enter the temple gate, and the scale of the place arrives, before the details do dark timber rising far overhead, incense drifting in slow ribbons toward the rafters, the bronze Buddha's face emerging from shadow with an expression carved to look calm from every possible angle. Outside, in Nara Park, more than 1,200 Sika deer move freely among the visitors, genuinely bowing for the rice crackers sold at nearby stalls. Their hooves click softly against stone paths worn smooth by centuries of the exact same walk. These deer are considered messengers of the gods in local Shinto belief, protected here since the 8th century, and nowhere else in Japan do wild animals hold quite so formal a place in a city's daily life. It is a rare thing to watch history and instinct share a park bench without either one giving way. A single building was left standing near the epicenter of the first atomic bomb used in war, and Japan made the deliberate choice never to rebuild it. On the 6th of August, 1945, the bomb detonated almost directly above what was then the Hiroshima Prefectural Industrial Promotion Hall. The blast came from nearly overhead, and that geometry, along with the strength of the dome's iron frame, left a skeletal structure standing amid the destruction of the city around it. It has been preserved, deliberately unrepaired, ever since, and UNESCO inscribed it as a World Heritage Site in 1996. Walk toward it along the river, and the dome appears first as a dark outline against the sky, its iron ribs bare where the roof used to be, brick walls scarred but upright. The Peace Memorial Park surrounds it in deliberate, quiet, wide lawns, still water, the Children's Peace Monument, hung with countless folded paper cranes in every shade of color, moving faintly in whatever wind passes through. Visitors speak in near whispers here, not because they are told to, but because the place asks it of them without needing words. Nowhere else does a single ruined building serve simultaneously as a grave, a warning, and a promise, one that the city has renewed out loud every single year since. To stand before the dome is to feel history, stop performing, and simply ask to be remembered. There is a shrine gate that appears to float on the sea, and for centuries, the island beneath it was considered too sacred for ordinary people to touch, so the shrine and its great red torii were built out over the water instead. Itsukushima Shrine dates back to the 6th century, though its current form, the pier-like halls, resting on stilts above the tide, took shape in 1168 under the noble Taira no Kiyomori. The Great Torii standing offshore is counted among Japan's most photographed landmarks and is traditionally listed as one of the Nihon Sankei, the three most celebrated scenic views in the entire country. At high tide, the shrine buildings seem to hover directly above the sea. Vermilion pillars mirrored in still water, the Torii Gate rising alone, offshore, as though it had grown there naturally. At low tide, the water withdraws entirely, and visitors walk out across wet sand to stand beneath the gate itself, barnacles and small crabs clinging to its base, gulls circling low over the mudflats. Maple leaves turn the hillside behind the shrine, gold and crimson each autumn, and tame deer wander the shoreline path as unbothered by tourists as the tide itself. Few landmarks on Earth transform so completely twice a day without ever losing the shrine's essential stillness. Watching that gate change with the tide, you begin to understand a patience that has nothing to do with waiting and everything to do with trust. Few buildings anywhere have been destroyed and deliberately rebuilt as many times by as many different rulers as this one, and each version was raised not just as a fortress, but as a statement of who held power in Japan. Osaka Castle was first built in 1583 under Toyotomi Hideyoshi, one of the three great unifiers of feudal Japan, on the site of a former temple stronghold. Fire, war, and lightning took the castle down more than once across the centuries, and the structure visitors see today is a 20th century reconstruction in reinforced concrete, faithful to the original silhouette, down to its gilded roof ornaments. The castle rises from a base of megalithic stone walls, some blocks weighing more than 100 tons and fitted without mortar, a puzzle of granite assembled centuries before modern engineering existed to explain how. Above that base, white plaster walls and dark-tiled eaves climb in tiers, gold leaf catching the light on every corner ornament, moats wide enough to hold their own reflection of the tower whole. Cherry blossoms crowd the castle grounds each spring, turning the surrounding park into a soft pink field beneath the dark stone walls. Those foundation stones remain among the largest ever used in any castle construction in Japan, quarried and transported at a scale that still puzzles modern engineers studying the logistics involved. Every rebuilding of this castle was an act of defiance against forgetting, and it is still winning that argument today. In a valley where snow can rise higher than a person's shoulders, villagers built houses with roofs steep enough to shed that weight entirely, and centuries later, those same roofs would make the village one of the most recognized silhouettes in the country. Shirakawa-go's farmhouses are built in the Gasho Zukuri style, meaning constructed like hands in prayer, a name given because the steep thatched roofs resemble two palms pressed together. Some of these farmhouses are more than 250 years old, built without a single nail, their beams lashed together with rope in a design engineered specifically to survive the region's heavy annual snowfall. UNESCO recognized the village as a World Heritage Site in 1995. In winter, the thatched roofs disappear under white, smoke rising from small chimneys into pale sky, the entire valley gone quiet, under snow deep enough to swallow footsteps whole. In warmer months, the same roofs turn a deep gold brown against green rice paddies. Wooden water wheels turning slowly at the village edge, mist rising off the river each morning before the tour buses arrive. Farmers still gather for re-roofing days that require dozens of neighbors working together to replace a single roof by hand, a task too large for any one family alone. That style of roof exists in only a handful of villages left standing in all of Japan, and Shirakawa-go remains the largest and best preserved among them. There is something quietly moving about a roof shaped like a prayer, built by neighbors, for neighbors, against a season that returns every single year. We began beneath a mountain that has watched this nation for centuries, and we end somewhere far less visible on a map, with the feeling of having crossed a country where tradition and progress move side by side. What makes Japan unlike anywhere else is not a single temple or skyline, but its quiet ability to carry the ancient and the modern together. A torii gate beside a bullet train, a tea ceremony in a city of glass and steel. Japan never asks you to choose between the past and the future. It simply shows that both can exist in harmony. And perhaps that is the greatest souvenir this country leaves behind. The quiet reminder that lasting beauty is found not in resisting change, but in carrying it with grace.